Hello and welcome to Thursday Thoughts. Thursday Thoughts? What on earth are they, I hear you ask? Well, my friend Lucy and I meet every week over on Instagram to talk all things personal growth because she is as obsessed with it as I am. And we decided that we might as well put those conversations out as a weekly podcast. So now you can listen to us chat here on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And we'll be talking about topics such as spirituality, limiting beliefs, the ego, imposter syndrome, gratitude, meditation, confidence, and so much more. So if you're ready, here we go.
Today we are talking about accountability, which actually is very relevant. Well, it's relevant today apart from anything else because you and I have decided that every Monday morning after we do our Monday motivation, we're going to do a session with each other on Zoom, basically not necessarily talking on Zoom, but just to keep each other accountable because both of us want to get a podcast sponsor. So I think this is a good place to start. But in fact, one thing that I've talked about before on the podcast and on Monday Motivation, but I just want to reiterate it, is that the one and only reason that I have bedded in a morning routine because I had accountability. I had an accountability buddy, a friend called Michaela, who at the time wasn't a friend, which is an important point to make because it doesn't have to be a friend. And Michaela and I, quote unquote, met. We didn't really meet, but I'd seen her on Zoom screen on a course that we both did about 3 or 4 years ago. And basically off the back of that, I sent an email out or a message out to, no, I think we were talking about it on the call. And then one of us either Michaela messaged me or I messaged her. And again, we hardly knew each other, but whoever it was, I think it was her who messaged me and said, look, I really want to do this thing that you were talking about, morning routine. And so we decided to do it. So for months and months, we were each other's accountability buddies and we would call each other. We would take it in turns. I called her one morning at 5. She called me the next morning at 5. And we did this for months. And that was the start of my morning routine, which, as I've talked about and you've talked about, changed my goddamn life because it just makes life so much better. And so the benefits of accountability are massive. And I think am I right in saying, is it 96% more likely to make a change or do the thing we want to do if we have accountability?
Yeah, so there's research with there's two percentages in the research which is kind of out there if you look this up, but it's so if you make a statement, if you kind of say to somebody, right, I'm going to do this. So for example, when I wanted to run the Brighton Marathon last year, I kind of put it on Instagram and I said, right, I'm going to run the Brighton Marathon. If you do that, kind of make a claim out loud, you are 65% more likely to do the thing. If, however, you make an appointment like you and I have done this morning to sit down and do something together, or if you have an accountability buddy to go and do a workout together, whatever it is, you are 96% more likely to do the thing, which is huge. So there's two strands to that. So it's like kind of saying it out loud and declaring it is going to increase your chances massively because obviously you don't want to lose face and you're kind of like, right, I've said it now, I'm going to do it. And then, yes, if you actually make an appointment with somebody else, you make a date or you get someone to, like you did, get someone to call you, then you are 6% more likely. And that is a huge statistic.
It is. It's incredible. But the thing is, it doesn't surprise me in the least because, like I say, had I not sort of met Michaela and had we not phoned each other, I don't think I would have, maybe I'd have got another accountability buddy. But had I not done that with her, I know myself and I know that I would not have started getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning if I was left to my own devices. And actually, it's funny because I'm currently, last week I started calling one of my Thrive Solo members, Jess, who has been, she did a taster session with me like months and months ago before I started my membership, and she'd mentioned how she wanted to start a morning routine. And I said to her, this was literally months ago, I was like, look, if you want accountability, then I'd be happy to call you because, it's no big deal calling someone for like a minute in the morning when you're getting up anyway. And anyway, how many months later, here we are, and we started last week, so I'm calling her every morning. And actually, she's already. She was saying on a Thrive Solo call last night. She's saying that she's already kind of feeling the benefits. And the days that she's done it so far, which is only about 3 or 4 days, we did. I called her again this morning because I'm not calling her at the weekends, but she said she's already found that she's being more productive and been more productive those days. And actually, I'm quite liking it, because although I'm pretty good with my morning routine, it's making me be even better with it, because now it's my responsibility to call somebody else. So the odd morning where I might be like, oh God, you know what? I just can't face it this morning, which I did, which does happen because I'm human. But that's kind of bedded it in even more. So it really, really is a win-win situation.
Yeah.
And just going back to the kind of if anyone's thinking, well, who would I get? It doesn't, like I said earlier, it doesn't have to be a friend. It doesn't have to be somebody you know well. You can find accountability. It might even be somebody at work who you've heard, like, say you want to get up early and you've heard somebody at work talk about it. You could approach people at work, or it could be a course that you're doing, or it could be somebody that you've sort of met on Instagram and you barely know, but they're really into exercising, and you could reach out to them. I mean, it doesn't have to be hard. And don't let wondering who's going to be your accountability buddy, don't let that stop you, because if you really want to do something, you can get accountability. So I don't know what you'd say to that.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. It's kind of creating an environment for yourself, which is going to make it as easy as possible to do the things you really want to do. I heard something this morning said that the drop-off phase of New Year resolutions, everything, is generally around the 18th, 19th of January. That's the kind of when we all sort of tend to go, oh God, I've kind of had good intentions, but actually, because we are not, we're wired in a way to kind of not, to keep safe. That's ultimately what we all need to do. We're wired for survival. And because of that, it means that we are always seeking the easiest option. And the easiest option quite often is like to just stay the same, is to, not to change. And if we want to start something, introduce something new into our life because we genuinely want to do it, you actually have to, you've got to change from within. You've actually got to change who you are being, because otherwise you are not going to do the thing. And that's why everybody drops off, because they're just not changing who they are. They've got the motivation at the beginning of the new year, but the motivation, as we know, never ever stays unless you start to change the person who you are. So obviously that is a major part of it. So that's why these little small actions are all going to help you change the person who you are. So by having that accountability, you are creating an environment for yourself. It's almost like, you're creating that, making it easier for yourself by having that person there in your life saying, come on, you can do it. It's just that constant reminder. And there are going to be always, whenever you introduce anything new or you want to change something, there's always going to be those dips where you just think, God, I can't be asked. I don't want to do it. It's not worth it. But if you go back to that initial feeling of when you did want to do it, it's not going to have gone anywhere. It's just that your subconscious is just trying to keep you safe. It's trying to keep you returning back and keeping you as you have always been. So in order to change, and it will happen because we can rewire ourselves. That's the beauty of it all. We really can rewire the way we think. We can rewire our actions, but having an accountability buddy or having some sort of accountability really, really does help you on that way. So I'm so fortunate in so many ways with my husband Giles. So he is big into exercise and fitness and just moving. Sometimes it drives me mad because he never ever sits still. He is really into keeping really fit and healthy. So for me, it's like he is the best accountability partner when it comes to exercise. So, for example, this morning we both went to the gym, and we do this planking thing together, which he does with me, and I wouldn't do it. I don't do it unless I'm with him, but because he's kind of saying, "Come on, you can do it." I do it. So it is, and and even if you don't have someone at home who can do it, as you say, there are so many people out there who would want to do it too, and it helps keep them accountable. And if you're really, really struggling, and if you have the means, that is what coaches are for as well. They are brilliant accountability partners. If you've got an appointment with someone each week, for example, it's going to help you. And actually, sometimes it's worth thinking to yourself, okay, maybe it is worth the investment to really get that habit totally ingrained into your everyday, because that's what we want. We want those neural pathways to start going from little tiny narrow footpaths to great big 3 carriageway motorways. That's what we want, so that it's just what we do.
Yeah, totally. And I couldn't agree more about investing in yourself. And this is such a funny one. Can I just say, I smirked a few moments ago because I saw that my mum joined.
How did Sue? Sue.
Hi. But I've completely forgot what I was saying. Yeah, I know what it was. That's it. It's so interesting as humans. We will spend money on physical things. We will spend money on going out for dinner. We will spend money on clothes. We will spend money on, things. But when it comes to spending money on ourselves for essentially something that is not, intangible, you can't actually see it. Spending money on a coach, it's all, it's nothing sort of solid. And it's crazy when you think about it. And I think it's worth bearing this in mind, that there is no better way to invest your money than in self-improvement. And you and I both know that, because you and I have both invested money in it. And again, it is back down to accountability. Like, I was in a mastermind for 6 months that held me really accountable every single week. You and I are holding each other accountable every single week doing Monday Motivation. We did that deliberately because we wanted to do something that scared us every week. And subsequently, here we are. I don't know, it's not a year later, but it's certainly several months later. And it's now, I don't feel so nauseous when I press the button. And that's
true.
Up to me, I probably would not have done it. So, but yeah, I mean, investing in coaching, even if even if it's just for say a few months, or even if it's just for a month, just to sort of kickstart you, is actually, again, we all feel a bit weird about spending money on invisible things like changing yourself, or that kind of thing. But we should remind ourselves that actually that really is the best investment, because by improving yourself, you're going to improve your life. So all of the things that you want to spend your money on, you're going to be more likely to do that if you initially spend your money investing in yourself. And one other thing that I just wanted to mention that came to mind earlier is that you were talking about resolutions, and how people sort of drop off on towards the end of January. And one thing that I just wanted to say, and this isn't to do with accountability, it's just about when we're setting ourselves resolutions or goals. I don't set New Year's resolutions. I prefer to think about it in terms of goals and what I want for the year, and that kind of thing. But it's so easy or it's so tempting. It's almost like, I think it's an excuse really, if we say we start something at the beginning of January or any time, and we start doing something and we fall off the wagon, and we miss a couple of, say we start meditating every day and then we miss a couple of days, we need to not allow that to throw us off for the rest of the year. And I think that's probably one of the things that a lot of people do. It's like, oh well, I didn't, I've completely fucked this up now, so I might as well give up. And that shouldn't be the case. Like, if you're doing something and you thought, like me with my morning routine, if I miss a day, I'm not just going to go, oh well, oh my god, well now I've completely ruined it, so I'm just not going to ever do it again. You can, even if you miss a couple of days, just get back on it as fast as you can, and just keep going. And if throughout the year you keep doing, as long as you keep going back to that thing. And actually, speaking of goals and goal setting, one of the things that I heard is that, and I think this is such a good idea, is that when you're setting yourself a target to do something, you're setting yourself a goal, rather than saying like, I am going to meditate 365 days in 2024, set like a parameter goal. So I'm going to do this thing 3 to 5 times a week, because you're so much more like, the research shows that you're more likely to do that thing if you say, I'm going to do it 3 to 5 times a week, or I'm going to do it 2 to 3 times a week, rather than saying, I'm going to do it 7 days at the end. So that's another way to think about it.
That's so true, actually, because so one of the things I've been doing more recently, adding into my morning routine, is filling up my bathtub. Well, I keep it full of cold water, and I kind of jump in it for 3-ish minutes. And recently, as it's been getting colder and colder, and our bathroom is right at the top of the house, it is freezing cold anyway. And it takes a lot sometimes to get in that bathtub. It's the mental thing of getting in. And yes, for example, yesterday, for example, I had been out for a walk. I'd been for a run. I was absolutely freezing when I got in. And I was like, I'm not going in it. I'm just not going in it. And I didn't. And it was very easy then to kind of go this morning. So this morning was even colder. So I've been in the gym and I was like, oh, go in it. I'm so cold. But actually, I kind of, don't know, something made me go, sod it, go on, in you go. And I did it. And that was a real moment where if I had left it for another day, I think it probably, then tomorrow I'd probably go, oh, sod it, I'm not going to do it. So it's about being able to, when you've had missed a day, or, is to quite quickly, I think, get back in on it, doing the thing, because the longer you leave it, if you do another day of not doing it, then you just it just drops off. So it's about just going, yeah, sure, I didn't do it yesterday because I didn't feel like it. I gave myself, that's fine, but let's get back to it because it's something which I know makes me feel really good. I know ultimately, that is one of the goals I set myself. So I'll feel worse about it if I don't do it. And then I really always try and imagine and feel and visualize how I'm going to feel when I've done it. It's a bit like, yay, it's really sort of celebrating yourself, and it's so worth it.
One thing that I was just thinking is that if anybody is thinking, if anyone, and also particularly to my followers, because obviously my podcast is about being single, so a lot of the people that follow me are single. So if there's anyone who is watching this or who listens to this on the podcast that's thinking, well, I'm single, and therefore, if you really cannot find an accountability buddy, which I would imagine that if you really can't find one, you probably haven't tried hard enough yet. But if you feel like you don't want to do that, or you can't find one for whatever reason, then you can do something that makes you hold yourself accountable, even if it's like ticking things off on on post-it notes. Like if you make a lovely table for the month with squares for the month, and you put a big tick with like buying Sharpie pen, which I love love a Sharpie. If you can hold yourself accountable by doing that, because if you say you start off really well, you do the first 3-4 days, and then you're not going to want to see that kind of glaring empty square. So you can in some way hold yourself accountable. But I mean, there is no there is no better thing than having another actual human being. And if anyone's thinking, well, how do I do that, I would suggest, I'm not big on Facebook at all. Like, Facebook confused me. I have a Spinstead Reimagined Facebook group, but I don't really use apart from that. But I do know that Facebook has all of these kinds of groups, so you could always find somebody in the country that you live in. So in terms of phoning each other or meeting online or whatever it is, find, if you want to exercise more, find some local Facebook groups about running or going to the gym or whatever. You can reach out to people on Facebook, and there are so many people on there are gazillions of people on social media. We can all find someone on social media who would be our accountability buddy. And again, just to reiterate the fact that, as you said earlier, we're 96% more likely to do something. And going back to you and I, so after this call, we'll jump on a Zoom and we'll hold each other accountable for an hour and a half or 2 hours to do the thing that we have said that we're going to fucking well do this year. I really want to get a podcast sponsor, and actually, I feel like saying it out, because I was saying, I think on the membership call last night, yes, because we were talking about goals. And again, you mentioned earlier saying it out loud. So the fact that I've now said to multiple people, I want to get a podcast sponsor this year, that in itself makes me think, oh my God, well, I better do the work. So that, coupled with you and I committing to doing every week an hour and a half or a couple of hours, and for example, I think you and I said this when we first spoke, but we wanted to send out a certain number of emails. I mean, I think I want to send at least 5 emails every single week to potential sponsors. So yeah, it's it really, accountability is just, it's everything. It really is everything. So if you're
A very quick break to ask you to hit the follow or subscribe button if you haven't already. And if you're enjoying this episode, I'd be super grateful if you could hit those stars and rate it too. Thank you.
Exactly. Just going back to kind of finding an accountability, there are also so many free things going on in terms. So, for example, this morning, I love this guy, Breath Pod. If you go and follow Breath Pod, he's Stu Sandeman. He's such a lovely person, and he started it today. He's doing a daily Monday to Friday manifestation breath thing on Instagram. And it's free and it's amazing. It's for half an hour, 7:30 to 8 every morning. So those sorts of things are just, there's so many of them. Mel Robbins does loads of free things. There's lots of these challenges out there and they're really bloody good. So you can go and, look up those types of things as well. On the podcast sponsor, I'm going to have to update. Someone has, since I said it out loud, I know, but it's not, perhaps it needs to be discussed, but someone has already come forward to I know, but it's not not amazing, it's not the best of offers, but it's something, it's a start. I know. So this stuff works, saying things out loud.
Wow. So we'll discuss on our Zoom. Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah. And also my on terms of podcast, Lucy, tomorrow I am rebranding my podcast, which I've kind of was going to do very subtly, but I've kind of been talking a bit more about. But yes, I'm very excited. I've got a new intro, I've got a new name, and I've got a new podcast cover. And I'm going to be talking about it tomorrow on my episode about what has really inspired me and why I'm kind of changing the Positive Perimenopause podcast to Metamorphosis. So that's happening tomorrow. So I'm very excited about that. And this is scary. I'm like, will people come and listen? Because the Positive Perimenopause podcast is very obvious what it does, whereas this new name is a bit more random, but I'm hoping it kind of makes sense. But I kind of said it out loud again that I've been thinking about it for a while. I kind of feel like I want to sort of broaden the podcast, what I'm talking about. And actually, I told you, I've told various people, and that's really held me accountable to actually make the change, because I think otherwise I just wouldn't have done it. And just doing the podcast full stop has been the biggest lesson in accountability, because that is something, putting out a weekly episode every blimmin' week can sometimes feel challenging, but it was something I really wanted to do. And for me, it was something that if I didn't do it every week, I again could see how easy it would be just to not bother. And there is something known as pod fade, where people just fall off because it takes dedication, it takes some work to put out episodes, but it's something I absolutely love doing. I love doing it. And so just sort of saying that I'm going to do it weekly means, saying that out loud and having that accountability means that I absolutely do. And this morning I'm going to be recording the podcast episode for tomorrow, so I'm slightly flying by the seat of my pants, but I know I'll get it done. I know, I'll get it done. And then I just feel so good about myself because I'm able to do it. And I can then see the effects it's having on people around, the people who listen to it. And, yeah, it is. That is a really good example, I think, of how important it is just to speak these things out loud.
Completely. I mean, I agree so much in terms of the podcast. Yeah, like you say, I mean, putting out episodes every single week, you know, it's fucking hard work. There's just no two ways about it. It's massive. It's a massive commitment. But I, like you said at the very beginning, I, you know, announced that it would be going out every week, and then I added the mini-sode, and now we've added, you know, this. We'll put this out as a podcast. So you have 2 a week, I have 3 a week, and the only way to hold yourself, well, one of the ways to hold yourself accountable is once you said that you're going to do something, then it's amazing how you just freaking do it. And yeah, you're right. Like now for both of us, it's simply not an option that I wouldn't put a podcast out. It's just simply not an option. And there's many times where I'm like really tired or really busy, and I'm like, oh my God, I have completely forgotten about the minisode, and I have to like come up with a minisode and just shove something out. But because I've held myself accountable, and the same with you, because you've held yourself accountable, we just, so I think it, you know, maybe the moral of the story is just get some accountability. It doesn't matter, you know, however that looks, whether that's saying out loud on your social media, so you're making a commitment. I think quite a good one actually is putting something on social media, because like you say, when you said you were going to do the marathon last year, as soon as you said it,
sorry, bring the dog out. Sorry. Always in and out. Sorry, that was
okay. But no, as soon as you said it, then that was it. You couldn't, no going back. And it was the same for both of us with the podcast. Like I remember when I sent the email, when my podcast has been going for 2 years, month, and in January 2022, when in January 2022, before I started the podcast, I sent an email out to all of my contacts, because at that point I didn't even have an Instagram account. So I literally sent an email to all of my friends. You know, I literally was like dragging out emails of people I hadn't seen for like 15 years. I thought, fuck it, I'm just going to email everyone just to get a couple of people hopefully to listen to it. And by sending that email out, it was done. D-O-N-E freaking done.
yeah.
That's
Yeah,
right there.
yeah.
So,
And it was the marathon was a massive lesson for me in accountability, because I know, again, if I hadn't said it out loud, I wouldn't do it. And actually, it's so funny, because I'm meant to be running, I kind of had signed up to run the Brighton half marathon, which is in February this year. And I haven't really talked about it. So, and actually, I'm at the point now where I'm thinking, I mean, I have been doing the training, but I kind of dropped off, and it's not really lighting my fire this time round. So I'm just kind of like, but I suppose maybe I haven't had the determination. I'm kind of thinking, well, I did the marathon last year. I kind of ticked that. It was on my bucket list of things to do. But, you know, I haven't really, it shows I haven't made myself accountable to do the half marathon, and I don't know if I'm going to do it. I might do it. We'll see.
That's just reminded me actually of one thing before we wrap up that I think is really so important. You know, like you were saying about you're just not that bothered about doing the half marathon, so you probably won't do it. But you've got to know your why. What is your reason? Like, why do you want to do the thing that you say that you want to do? So, you know, going back to morning routines, if you're thinking, oh, I really want to get into a morning routine, you have to know why you want to do that. Like, you can't just be like, oh, I want to do this or I want to do that. There's got to be a kind of a burning fire inside of yourself as to why you want to do that. Because when it gets tough and when you can't be fucked, that's what you have to go back to.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that burning desire to actually do the thing, then you're not going to do it. So before you commit to doing something, before you get accountability for anything else, work out what is the actual reason. Why do you want to do the thing that you say you want to do? And that has to be really, really strong so that it keeps you going.
Yeah.
And, you know, so like for us with our podcast, like we both want to make our businesses work. Like I do not want to go back to a 9-to-5 job. There is my why. It's not an option. I've taken it off the table. Not happening. So there is my why. So I that is what keeps me going. So you've got to have that why. So
yeah, exactly. And then the accountability is just a means to kind of get to that end.
Exactly.
So
Well, shall we wrap up? Oh, it's 9:33.
Yes, let's do it. Well, yeah. Amazing. Well, yeah, there we go. Go and get yourself accountability buddy, everybody, or say it out loud. And the beauty is that these days there are so many different ways that you can say it out loud using the internet. So yeah, do it.
Cool. All right. Well, I'll see you. Are we starting at 10?
Yes, I'll see you then.
At 10. Okay. Thanks for listening.
Bye. 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 Bye.